Hello and welcome back to my mapping series. We are back on Operation Mars. Before we begin with the ambient sounds and ambient triggers, I mentioned that I would probably tweak the light settings based on tester feedback, and I kind of did. Only the light mappings are the same, but I made a new sky that is not overcast anymore, because they pointed out, not without reason, that the whole snowblind look works a lot better if there's no big clouds in the sky and it's really clear, to go for that dry kind of winter look. Anyway, ambient sounds. These are the sounds that basically play all the time while you're on the map, in the background, sometimes being kind of annoying, like all the weird animals on Zidi Wuzid. So for this map, I'm not gonna do anything fancy here. As I said, it's kind of a dry, cold winter day. There's not a lot of stuff going on. There's no rivers lazily going through the landscape. The villages are all empty and dead. I'm just gonna put some cold wind in the background like I did on Motovsky Bay and be done with it. Just right click. Make sure you have the default layer selected. Right click, create ambient sound. Let's call that general wind ambience. And yeah, here we go, select it. And select a sound file name. You find these under common. No, wait. Under... No, it must be under common. No. I'm 100% sure it's under common, but which common? Was it effects? No. Actually, yeah, it's effects, not common. Sounds, no, it's level ambience, so that's what I'm looking for. Ah, you have to select FH2 first, yeah, and then there's another common folder. Yeah, that's what always fucks me up when I do this. Okay, so you click on FH2 up here and then on common, because they don't know more than 2 words for anything. And then you have the different sounds here. These are all the languages and stuff. Obviously we don't need those, we want to have level ambience. Now sometimes in the past we made custom level ambience. If somebody's available to do that, that's also what I would do, but I'm not going to do it or learn it. Because there's a limit to what I'm willing to put into this. But basically, you can get new sound files, of course, from the internet, but generally speaking, I think you don't actually need that many different ones. Like, for example, for Motovsky, the only new thing was this broadcast here. Which is in a, basically any sound file in an OGG format. Alrighty. Let's see what we can do here. Active battle ambience. Actually, battle could be interesting as well. Let's see. Maybe, but generally speaking, for everything like a cold wind, for the map is probably a good starting point. So I'm loading that now. Next up, what you have to do is set the min distance, which is basically how far it can be heard. Now for that, you have to go to render and let's see. Show draw, no. It's called show min distance or something like that. Toggle draw, no, it's not collision meshes. Let's see, it's somewhere here. As I said, this is something that I never do, so I don't find it that quickly. Ambient. Okay, so now you see the ambient min distance. It's set to 1 right now. Let's make it really big, 2500 for the cold wind. And if you zoom out now, you should be able to see it. And yeah, here you go. So this is the outer part of the ambience then. It's maybe a bit too much actually. Let's put it down to 250 just so we can see it properly. So this is what it looks like. It's just a sphere, and inside the sphere you hear the sound. So let's make it a bit bigger again. Let's go to 1500. That should realistically cover everything on the map, right? Well, actually, it's often kind of hard to tell, but yeah, that should cover everything on the map. And yeah, you do that with the rest of the sounds as well. It's always the same. One thing you have to look out for. You can, of course... Oh, actually, down here you see that little symbol. that's where you can somehow, yeah, like this, switch on your editor sounds, but often I find you have to restart the editor to actually make the sounds load. But once you've done that, you can check if you have to change the volume, and volume can be changed somewhere here as well. Yeah, volume is set to 100. Try it out, maybe try it out in-game as well, that probably would make a lot of sense, and change it there. Next important thing, loop count needs to be set to 0, so it loops endlessly. And stop type also has to be set to 0, so it doesn't stop. And now the ambient sound should be good to go and working, basically. Just zooming out to see how big it is, and yeah, this is the radius. It's covering the whole map. It's hard to see, especially with the fog settings here, but it should be working like this. So I will fine-tune this a bit more and then go to the actual triggered effects. Okay, I placed that stuff. Now the second similar kind of thing you can do is placing static sounds. Just go to the normal static objects folder in FH2, then ambient effects, and then there's, for one thing, static effects like that amber stuff that's floating through the air, a little smoke stacks, stuff like that. And there's also ambient sounds. For example, cows, a barking dog, which for example I used quite a bit on Studienka. Usually I place those like inside closed buildings, so it sounds like there's a dog in there. I think on this map it just doesn't really feel appropriate because it's so, like, there's no civilian presence in these villages anymore. It's just military, and I mean, I guess maybe the Germans would have a dog, but I'm actually not 100% sure about that. Same with like a rooster. Then here you have soundtrack France, soundtrack Deauville, and Gloomy. These are to be placed next to like gramophones. That's basically, those are songs. And this is actually maybe a bit more interesting for this map. Like, I could see the Germans playing some interesting music, but not really. Idle truck, self-explanatory, I think. River, that's the easiest way you can place like river ambience if you make one. I'm thinking about, but this doesn't look like it's idling, so is there any static truck here that looks like it should be idling? I don't actually think so. Again, Westerwald, I think that's a song, so that could be kind of a German song that would be quite funny to place maybe in a closed building, but it's not that fitting really. Rain ambience, sure. Crickets, probably all dead. Birds. Now here it gets interesting. I think I want to have some birds in the forest here. We'll come to that later. So we have small stream and so on, and waves by a dog, all not applicable. But let's maybe place a bunch of birds. Just to show you what it's like. I often like to place stuff like that slightly outside of the actual combat area. If we put that here, let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, no, that's not wintry enough. Okay, so we won't use any of those, but what we will do are static triggers. And this is where it gets interesting. You might think, well, this sounds a bit boring here on this map. You haven't even placed that much yet. Well, let's wait for it. What I want to place quite a lot, and I'm going to start here in the Russian main base again. What I want to place quite a lot are ambient triggers for like snow being blown around. Especially where people are spawning and running around near the trenches. So a lot of people see those because there's kind of a limit to how many of that stuff you can place. So be mindful of that. But let's say, for example, I want snow from time to time when people run through this trench from the Russian main base. I want snow to be blown across the trench from time to time. How would I do that? Well, for that, again, make sure you have the default layer selected. And then you have to create an ambient trigger. Let's call that trigger gust 1. Here we go, that's the trigger, selected. layer clear, and the radius could be something like 15 meters, and this one is actually immediately shown, so that's nice. And then we can have a trigger type. We have time, fire, move, and explosions. Time trigger means that the effect is triggered every, X seconds or whatever. Fire means that if somebody fires from inside that radius, it triggers the effect. Move means if somebody moves into there, it triggers the effects that are bundled with it. Explosion means if an explosion goes off, right? So I'm gonna do move here because I want people, if they move in there, an effect is triggered. Trigger ID 1, chance 100. And, okay, chance 1. Okay, never mind. Minimum time between triggers. I don't know if that's in minutes or in seconds. I'm going to assume seconds, so I'm going to change that to 120. Well, that's a bit much, maybe. Let's say 60. So 1 minute between triggers, so it doesn't happen all the time. Okay, so what you have to do then, I think, is create an ambient effect, and it already says gust 1 here, so it's linked to that ambient trigger. Gust 1 ambient effect, yeah, let's just call it that. Illegal characters, oh, number probably 1. Okay, here we go. Let's select that. Yeah, and that's now linked to this trigger. And let's see, how does this actually work? I have selected it, trigger ID, linked effect container. Okay, yeah. So, radius and so on, that's all in here. And a linked effect container. Now we can select a template here, like a dust cloud, stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, we have stuff like snow drops, snow cloud. Now this is interesting. Snow trail, snow shards, snow to wall. We have all that kind of stuff. Let's see. As I said, this is not something that I do a lot, but other things you have that you can trigger here are, I mean, obviously you could trigger butterflies and so on, but you can just place these as static effects anyway. But you could also trigger, I'm looking for something here. Yeah, bird. Oh no, wait. That's just ambient sound. Like these birds that are flying away. Yeah, bird 1 and bird 2. You can trigger these. These are the flocks of birds that fly away. Might actually use that as well in the forest. And yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. Just try a bunch of it out. But obviously we're interested in the snow stuff. I'm gonna start with snow trail here. Okay. So now, where I'm not that knowledgeable is how I can actually test this inside the editor. If I can trigger this by just running into here now. Normally, this should have triggered it, but apparently it didn't. That's actually kind of annoying because I don't know in which direction this gust of snow is going off. I want it to drift over the trench. This is really annoying. I mean, there must be some kind of way to test this, right? Maybe I can place this as a static ambient effect and check it like that. That would be my next guess. Let's see. Gonna not select it now. So that one was called Snow Trail. If I look here, ambient effect. Sounds. Okay, the snow trail is certainly not here. That makes little sense, I guess. And so there's snowfall as a static effect. Let's see. Maybe it's under common? No, of course not. Yeah, I have no idea how I can actually test this out, because I don't know the snow places. Ice spikes? No, that's that kind of stuff. That's for snowfall. Ugh, God. How I sometimes hate this. I mean, it can't be that hard to just trigger this, like, and look at it one time so I know which direction to... I mean, somebody must have thought that. I can't be that much smarter than everybody else. Actually, why is that? It's probably just a glitch. I'm just gonna assume, because that's how a reasonable person would do this, that where the blue thing is looking, that's where it goes, right? Let's put it like this, and if I have to turn it around later, I will have to do that. Okay, so that's the first ambient trigger done. Next up we will do snow falling from a roof, which is also pretty cool, I think. So here we are back at Pshenicino, or Pshenicino or whatever. And I think it would be cool if, because many people will be in this general area, shooting from here, firing from here. So if you fire from here or an explosion goes off, snow drops down from the roof into this destroyed area here. I think that would be pretty nice. So let's see, create ambient trigger. Gonna call that drop 1. We're gonna call all the snow drops that, just to make it a bit easier to follow. So select that. So let's see, trigger type, we're gonna do fire and explosion. Again, 60 seconds makes a lot of sense to me. Chance 1. So it always happens. And the radius, let's say like 15 meters. Is that maybe too much? Yeah, that's probably a bit too much. 10 meters. So yeah, then it's pretty specifically in this area, so people that trigger it will also be very likely to see it. I'm not 100% sure if this is completely networked. It might be client-side, actually. Keep that in mind, I guess. Oh, that doesn't make a big difference. So now, Ambient Effect. Drop 1, Ambient Effect 1. And let's see, let's select this. And we're going to call, or we're going to use the snow thingy. Snow drops. Alright. And obviously we have to move that where the dropping is supposed to start. I think in this case it's not that important in which direction it's turned, because I'm sure they would not be so stupid to set it up so it just drops to the side by default or some bullshit. And put it here. So then it drops from the roof here. Obviously, if you looked at it too closely, it will probably not look that great. But normally people won't look up. They just will see something is falling from up here, and that will look cool. And what we can also do is make one drop in front of this thing here, for example, where you can look out and shoot out. So you can have a situation where somebody shoots from here and suddenly there's snow dropping in front of him, and I think that could be a pretty cool effect. So we will just put in another ambient effect for the same one, call it number 2. And obviously the same effect container will be loaded for that one as well. And then just pull it up to the roof here. And I hope that will work. What I will do now actually is go and load this up in-game just to already check if everything works, and especially the direction on that snow gust there. Or snow trail or whatever it's called, just to see how that looks before I place more of them, and then maybe I have to fix it. Maybe a bit more here. Okay. Let's save that, and then we will already look at it in-game. Here we go again. So I was just in-game, and I screwed some of this stuff up. First of all, I'm not one. So this one works. It doesn't look as cool as I hoped, though, and I'm not sure if it's because I used the wrong object or it's turned around wrong. That's kind of the thing I'm at right now. So. Snow trail. Maybe I need to use something different. Snow to wall? No. Snow cloud. Maybe snow cloud will look cooler. It was also really hard to tell if the direction is correct, so I will have to try that out again. Now the other one I kind of screwed up completely. Now this is also triggered, but I only hear a sound, which makes me believe, being a sleuth like Sherlock Holmes, that I screwed that up and actually loaded a sound file by mistake. Which worked, but not really what I was after. Snow drops, yeah, apparently that is snow, like the sound of snow dropping. Gonna assume that maybe snow shards is actually what I'm looking at, or looking for here, because that would make at least sense to a degree. So, Yeah, let's try that out. Wait. Oh, yeah. Completely blew past it. Okay, changed that. Next try in game. Well, never mind again. Just as I close the editor, who comes to the rescue but Captain Bouquier, who tells me that I can actually trigger an ambient effect in the editor. So, trigger ambient effect. And here we go. That's exactly what I wanted. A gust of snow blowing over this trench here. I will actually kind of move this one away a little bit to over here, so the thicker part goes across this this gap. And I will maybe make it a bit smaller as well. To like 12 or something, so the spawning guys don't trigger it, because that's what happened when I tested it once. So that also means that I can test this in-game, in the editor. So let's say somebody, oops, that's not, okay. Ambient triggers, drop 1. Trigger ambient effect. Yeah, that is what I wanted. Okay, that makes this whole thing a lot easier. And it also shows me where I need to still, yeah, they need to be placed a bit lower. That's very good to know. Okay, that actually makes this whole thing a lot easier. I will place a bunch of them, and I think then I will just run through them, or through a bunch of them in-game to see what they look like. See you then. That looks nice, I would say. Anyway, next step, localization. This is a file that I put into my project folder here. Just a text file where I put all my localization stuff in. Now, I will add this later to our internal localization files from which the whole game basically reads. If you make a custom map, you can do that. To be honest, I'm not sure how you actually add localization to a custom map. Might be that it's not even possible with this method, so you might have to ask somebody else in that case. Just so you know, what you need is all the strings for the map description, and then one string which is just the name of every flag you have in all 3 layers. And behind that you write what will actually show up in game. And this one up here is for the English localization, this down here for the German one. Since I speak German, I do that one as well. We also have all kinds of others. In fact, these are all the languages we have so far. And it needs to be translated into all of them. Now what I do, I know some translators do it differently, but I don't translate the flag names into German, even though I could. Reason behind that is that I think it's better if the flag names are standardized for everybody on the server, so it's easier to communicate through chat. So that said, sometimes, for example, on Operation Mars, I just, not Operation Mars, on Motovsky Bay, I just made all the German, or all the flags into the original German names just for flavor purposes, because they weren't that complicated. So in the end, it's not standardized. For this one, I just used English names like trenches here. Now for the 64-player version, the trenches south and trenches north, I made up these names here like code names. The idea is that it's supposed to look like they named these trenches, which are fairly nondescript. They gave them code names after like girlfriends at home. These are actually the names of my grandmothers, who are sadly both dead now, but I thought that was a funny idea. And yeah, other than that, I will copy this over now. I also wrote the intro text here. It might be too long, I will have to check that. Especially the German one is always a bit longer than the English one due to the longer words. It's basically just a historical overview and a little intro text. I don't think many people actually read those, but it's kind of a standard thing to do that. So we'll add that now, and then we will go to the next step. Next step, I will add a loading song. For that, I chose an old Russian song, because that's fitting. It's kind of a sad one as well, so that is quite on point for the map. At least the beginning is quite sad. It's important if you add a new load song, it has to be in a special OGG format. Personally, I don't think it's that important. You can just load whatever load song you want from existing maps, but for a new one, like a new official map, why not make a completely new one as well? So we will have to change this here in the info file to levels, operation, Mars, what did I call it again? Loadmask.ogg. And that should add the load song, another one ticked off the list. Alright, before we end this video, one of the last ones in this series by the way, before we end it, one little thing, like every time the map gets loaded, you get put into the so-called camera before spawn. So before you spawn in, you see a certain perspective of the map, and that is also used as the end screen. Now, right now it's set to this area here. And a tester pointed out that in the beginning of the round there will be a lot of players here, and you could actually get like an advantage by, if you just spawned in and you haven't spawned yet, you see the people moving around here. I don't think it would be a huge thing, but he's not completely wrong. And I also think it would be cool to see the final objective in the beginning, and then of course also after the map has finished. So because of that, I think we will maybe use this area here. I've already leaked quite a few screenshots from here because it actually looks kind of cool. And if somebody actually drives the Stuck into here, that could also look cool in the end screen, even if it's destroyed. So maybe like an angle like this where you can see the final village and also the tree line. I think that would be good. You go to level editor, set camera before spawn, done. And yeah, that's already it. So next up, what I will have to do is some more finishing stuff, including taking a screenshot from this position in-game and use that as a load screen. Thing is, it makes little sense to do that before the final light maps aren't done, because yeah, I need newer light maps, especially because I changed the sun position to match with the new sky, so everything needs to be relighted. Which is not that bad these days because we do it on a server, but still. And before that is done, it makes little sense to create the minimap and the aforementioned screenshot and all this kind of stuff. Also, I don't yet have that render that we use as a load map picture, which will have to be created by somebody else because that's not a skill set that I have. So yeah, but for now I think we added quite a bit of detail to the map. Hope you enjoyed the video. As always, thanks for watching and have a nice day.